Hi, everybody. It's so wonderful to see you all here this evening. I hope that we have, I think, we have a small group, which is actually a really great thing. It means that we can really dig deep into what each of your goals are and get all your questions answered and hopefully have a little bit of fun as we learn. So my name is Shari Tishman, and tonight's session is about using LinkedIn for job search and career development. And I call this beginners level 1, and we'll go into why I call it that. But if this isn't what you had expected to attend tonight, you can leave and I won't be insulted, I promise, or you can stick around and learn something new. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we will get started. All right, there we go. All right, so as Juan said, the session's being recorded. You'll get a link to the recording, so don't worry about taking copious notes or anything like that. I do have 2 additional handouts for you that I'll make sure to share with Juan afterwards to get over to you. One of them is a checklist that details a lot of the items and the strategies that we're going to go over tonight and to get started on LinkedIn and to start taking advantage of the potential of LinkedIn for your job seeking. So that just will help you kind of hit the ground running. And finally, a profile worksheet, which helps you to build a really robust profile, which is the main topic of tonight's session. We're going to talk a lot about the profile. For the most part with these sessions, I really prefer that you stay muted and ask questions in the chat box as they come to you, and I'll address them as appropriate. With such a small group today, I think that what we can do is if you prefer to ask a question live, I will let you know when it's okay for you to unmute and ask questions, and you can do it then. But I'm also totally fine if everybody just asks questions in the chat as well. So it's up to you. But don't unmute until I tell you it's okay, please, because as Juan said, we're recording the session, and it's also just a much nicer experience for everyone if I'm the only one talking, believe it or not. Finally, we are now professional acquaintances, so please do connect with me on LinkedIn. I know some of you may not know how to do that yet, and that's okay, but if you do know, please feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to answer questions that pop up after the fact, to connect, to review your profile, provide any other advice or help I might be able to give you as you work on leveraging LinkedIn for your career goals. And with that, let's dive right in. Oh, and just a note, we're not going to be on PowerPoint or on the slide deck for very long. Most of the time we'll spend on LinkedIn. But first, something about me. Why am I up here giving a virtual workshop, I guess? So first of all, I have never, I'm not and have never been affiliated with LinkedIn in any official way. I've just used LinkedIn a lot since it began, both to build my own really strong professional network and also to find and hire great candidates for my teams. And so I've really seen it from both sides, and I really have become convinced that it's an incredibly powerful tool for building a professional network and reputation and achieving goals. That's my dog, sorry if you can hear him. And so I just want to share some of the strategies that I've built up over the years. So that's why I'm giving this workshop. Sorry. I've been giving the workshop for close to 10 years now. LinkedIn has changed a lot. The job market has changed a lot. The world has certainly changed a lot. And certainly how people are approaching their job searches has changed a lot, especially in the past few years. So it's been really interesting for me to adapt this session to the changing needs of what everyone is going through as we try and find good jobs and build careers as, kind of as the pandemic winds down. So super interesting. By day, I work in marketing. I lead a marketing team at a technology startup in well, actually they're based in New York, but I'm in San Francisco. The pandemic hit me hard. I was laid off in June of 2020 and December of 2021. So I lost a couple of jobs because of the pandemic and had to go back to the drawing board and look again and figure out what should come next. And my LinkedIn network was humongously helpful. for that. And especially in my most recent search, it really showed up for me in a really big way. And once again, solidified for me how valuable it is to build a strong network on LinkedIn and really use LinkedIn strategically. So that's what I hope to teach all of you during this workshop series. And I recently started a new job about 6 weeks ago. And it was, as I mentioned, because of my network. You'll hear more about my personal experiences over the course of the sessions, because I use my own profile tonight as an example for, and I tell my story a lot because, as I said, my own personal experience is what's informed how I approach LinkedIn. All right, but now I actually want to spend some time getting to know you. So please post in the chat window if you feel comfortable doing so, why you're here tonight, what you hope to learn, and what your goals are. So I can make sure to tailor tonight's session to be as valuable as possible for you, especially because we have such a small group. I can really do that. So I will be quiet for a minute and let you all type something in, and then we'll move on. Now, the next thing I wanted to do was provide just a quick overview of the entire workshop series, because actually this is a 3-part series. Tonight is the first part, or level 1, as I mentioned before. And the reason I call it beginner is because it doesn't assume any knowledge on your part of LinkedIn or that you have a LinkedIn account already. It's great if you do, but you don't have to at this point. So we will go over creating an account, give a little tour of the interface, and then spend most of our time diving deep into the profile and talking about how to build a great profile, and all the different elements there to make sure that you show yourself as impressively as possible so that your profile can work for you as you then build up your LinkedIn network. Speaking of which, that's what we cover in level 2, is how to find great people to add to your network, and then how to stay engaged with that, the various ways LinkedIn gives you to stay engaged with your network so that when you need them, they're there for you. And finally, level 3 is focused on, there's kind of 2 parts. The first part, we go over how to search for jobs using LinkedIn, and then leveraging your LinkedIn network that you built to apply for jobs and get an in, and get those interviews. And then in the second part of session 3, we go over how to leverage LinkedIn to build a really strong professional brand and reputation, and how that can kind of shift the situation for you so that you're not going after opportunities, but opportunities are being brought to you, are coming to you. And that really changes the game when it comes to figuring out how to move your career forward. So that's in level 3. It's month by month. So level 2 will be next month, and level 3 will be in June. All right, so it seems like a couple people here tonight are are already LinkedIn users. So I'm going to breeze through some of the initial stuff about creating an account so that we can get to the profile, the meat of the profile stuff. And as we go, please, put questions in that pop up. And during Q&A breaks, you also will have the chance to ask other questions about LinkedIn that isn't necessarily directly related to what I went over. So it's okay if you have a specific question that isn't directly related to, like, let's say the particular profile section that we were reviewing, to ask that at that point. Totally fine. Okay. So the first thing that I like to do, because I think it sets important context, even for people who have already been using LinkedIn, to really understand why LinkedIn and why there's so much potential on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the largest professional network in the world. It's in, it has close to 750 million members all over the world. CEOs from every Fortune 500 company are on LinkedIn. So it's really just massive. And that's really the key. I like to think of LinkedIn as a gigantic worldwide cocktail party. Right? For 2 reasons, actually. The first is a lot of the etiquette that applies to a cocktail party also applies to LinkedIn, right? So you're not going to share snapshots of your breakfast, for example, on LinkedIn, right? It's a professional network. But also at a cocktail party, you don't have to like get on someone's calendar. You don't have to go through administrative assistants. The hierarchy doesn't really matter, right? If you want to have a conversation with someone, you just need to have something interesting to say. And you walk up to them and you start talking. And that's the same for LinkedIn, right? You have unprecedented access to people all over the world in all types of industries and positions, regardless of, how senior they are, or how busy they are, really. If they're on LinkedIn and they're responsive, then you're in. So that is just an insane opportunity. And you also have the chance to discover people that you never would have known existed otherwise. And so it's really just an amazing opportunity to expand the horizons of even just your potential network, and explore opportunities that you never would have explored otherwise. Another reason, people are using LinkedIn. People are using LinkedIn to find jobs, and people are using LinkedIn to give jobs. So you need to be on LinkedIn doing these things, all right? Millions of jobs are listed. A stat I found, actually, this was last year, so it's probably even crazier now, but 3 people are hired every minute on LinkedIn. And 94% of recruiters use LinkedIn to vet candidates. I have friends in the recruiting industry, and, over the past 10 to 15 years, LinkedIn has completely revolutionized how they do their jobs. It's what they use now. And in-house companies are using LinkedIn as well to find good candidates. So that it's just where people go now. Another important reason to be on LinkedIn, in case you needed more convincing, if any of you have ever Googled yourselves, hopefully it was an okay experience and not a scary one or a confusing one. First of all, you are going to get Googled when you apply for jobs. You're going to get Googled. It's just how it is now. And so you need to have as much control as possible over what shows up in those search results. And that's a really tough thing to do. My former coworker, Adam Alley, who's about my age, before he joined LinkedIn, he Googled himself, and all of these search results popped up for this escaped convict from the 1980s, right? So obviously not him. He was way too young at that point. But that's still not the best association if he's going out there trying to get interviews. After he joined LinkedIn and set up his profile, this is what the search results look like, because LinkedIn has great search engine optimization, which means Google and other search engines love LinkedIn pages, and they're always going to show up on top. And who has control over what's in Adam's LinkedIn profile? Only Adam. Even more so than, let's say, Facebook or Twitter, which also show up here in top results. No one can @ you on LinkedIn and it'll show up on your profile, right? No one can message you and it shows up on your profile for other people to see. So it's really an outstanding way to at least start to take control somewhat over the narrative that's out there about you online. All right, so now is when we would go live and talk about creating an account. As I said, I'm going to kind of breeze through this because I don't want to spend too much time on stuff that you already know. But here's the sign-in page or the login page. If you don't have an account yet, you would need an email or a phone number and a password, and you need to have access to that email account so that you can confirm your account. As for passwords, choose something secure that people can't guess just by knowing the basics about you, like pet, maiden name, birthday, etc. I like to choose like phrases that I can remember, but would seem random to other people. And you want to switch it every 6 months or so. Don't use the same ones for more than one account, all the usual stuff. In this case, I already have an account, so I'm going to click sign in. Oh, and it remembered me because I was just logged in a little while ago. But let's sign in. And I have used this computer to sign in before, so this is a kind of my home computer. So it's a recognized device. What I'm going to do right now is take you to account privacy and security set, just a whole bunch of account settings. So if you haven't explored the account settings before, I definitely recommend you do so and set up a couple of the things I'm going to show you. So in order to get to account settings, you click on the me in the top right here and then go to settings and privacy. And this will take you to this page. There is so much here. We're not going to go through it all right now, but I urge you to really go through it on your own if you haven't already. There's a lot of flexibility and nuance here in terms of how you configure your account, both in terms of just basic account settings, but also privacy and security settings. And that stuff is really important so that you have the exact experience on LinkedIn that you want. So things like, you know, how you get notifications and what type of notifications you get, who sees what about your profile, etc. I want to focus on sign in and security up here. Okay, so in particular, I want to highlight two-step verification. This is something that you should turn on if you haven't already. It is the single most effective thing you can do for any of your online accounts to make sure that they are more secure. They're not going to be 100% secure, but they're going to be much, much more secure. What this does is anytime you sign it, you input your, you know, username and password from a device that isn't recognized, right? That you haven't told LinkedIn, yes, recognize this device in the future. It's going to send a code to some other place. It's going to have an additional verification step. And what this means is that, you know, if someone manages to guess your password and is trying to hack into your account, they would need, you know, your cell phone or access to your email address in order to actually get into the account. So it's just a really important security measure to take. So I urge you to set that up. All right, back to LinkedIn. So this is the home page of LinkedIn. Again, I'm going to quickly go through the interface. Top level navigation here with a search bar where you can input any keywords and get results. And we'll play around more with search in sessions 2 and 3 when we look for people and then when we look for jobs. We've got My Network, which just shows you all of your existing connections as well as recommends more to you. There's your Jobs Hub. We're going to dive into that in session 3. Messaging, which is where you can message back and forth with your connections. Notifications is a great tab for staying engaged with what's going on in your network. It's one of the good ways to do that. We're going to talk about that in session 2. We clicked on Me already. This is a way to get to your profile, account settings, help. And then in the manage section here, a lot of this has to do with business related things. So if I happen to manage a couple company pages, so that's where I see those here. So just some housekeeping stuff, basically. In the work link on the top right here, there's some other areas of LinkedIn to explore. Some of them do have to do with business stuff like find leads or post job, but some of them are for individuals and job seekers. So there's LinkedIn Learning, which we'll talk about soon. Groups we'll talk about in session 2. Salary and services marketplace we'll talk about in session 3, but you can explore those on your own as well. And advertise is a business thing. All right, on the home page here, there's 3 columns, as you can see. The right-hand column is basically ads and stuff LinkedIn is trying to get me to pay attention to. On the left-hand side, you've got some interesting stats about yourself. So I've got who am I, and then some basic analytics that LinkedIn is telling me about, although it doesn't tell me how long it's been that 500 people have viewed my profile. So it's not all that instructive. And then pages I manage. And then this section here, the recent section, is really cool because it provides ways for me to get an idea of what people are talking about or attending, what's going on in my groups, followed hashtags, and then I can discover more. When I click discover more, this is more people I can follow, right? Or pages I can follow. So this is a great way for me to explore ways to get more content or find more connections and just to further expand my network based on what my goals seem to be and what I'm interested in. So it's just a good thing, a cool thing that LinkedIn provides. But the main focus of the homepage, now that we're back on it, is the middle section or the news feed. And this is a great snapshot of what's been happening in my network. This is people I follow, groups I'm a part of, company pages that I follow, etc. It is a really great way to stay engaged with my network in small doses, right? So if if my goal is to just maintain engagement right now, then I might come onto LinkedIn once or twice a week and just scroll through my newsfeed, engaging, seeing who's here, seeing who's not. Let's say I'm actively job searching though. Well, then I'm going to have specific ideas of specific companies, specific people, or specific types of people that I want to make sure to build stronger connections with. And this is a great place to find them and do that, right? So if I'm trying to build a strong connection with Heather, right, then I'm going to engage with this post when I see that she's posted this. I'm going to like it. Maybe I'll share it and comment on it because she's going to see that. And that's a great way for me to get on her radar so that I can then strengthen that connection that I have with her. So that's the homepage newsfeed. Okay, let me make sure I'm not missing anything about this first part. We did creating an account, tour of the interface, account security, privacy and settings. Yep. Okay, so now the profile. Before we actually go to the profile, I want to talk to you about keywords. This is something that a lot of people don't explicitly think about when they're building their profile, but it's really important. And it starts, the first step before we even talk about keywords is to be successful on LinkedIn at all, and especially if you are trying to achieve some sort of career goal or new job, you need to know what that goal is. You really have to have a clear idea in your mind of what it is you're trying to achieve on LinkedIn. Because if you don't know that, there's absolutely no way you're going to be able to effectively communicate that to your network. And how are they supposed to help you then? So you need to know this. So that's the first step. Once you have a clear idea of what it is you're trying to achieve, then it's about making sure that your profile is a reflection of that. And one of the ways to do that is with keywords. You make a keyword list and you put those keywords all over your profile, and I'll show you where you should put them. But why are keywords so important? They're important for two reasons. First of all, and keywords are words and phrases that are relevant to what you're trying to achieve. They're relevant. They're important for two reasons. First of all, they help the robots find you, the LinkedIn robots, right? So when someone inputs a search term, the LinkedIn robots behind the scenes crawl all the profiles and all the accounts and pull up the ones that are relevant based on those search terms. And so you want to show up for the searches that are most relevant to your goal. And that means that you need to have those keywords in your profile. The second reason that keywords are important is so that humans will notice you, not just robots. Because let's say that someone is doing a search for candidates of a particular type. Well, as they're perusing search results or skimming profiles, which they're going to do both of those things, their eyes are going to get caught on the words that matter most to them. So you need to make sure that those words are in your profile for the roles that you want. So that's keywords. So how do you come up with what keywords you should be? How do you know which keywords you should include? So 3 pieces of advice that I give for this. The first is just spend a few minutes brainstorming, use your judgment first, right? So once you know, again, what you want to achieve, what your goals are, just make a list of keywords. You might come up with 5, you might come up with 25, either way is fine. The second is look at the LinkedIn profiles for people who have the types of jobs that you want and see what sorts of words they use in their profile. What's in their headline? What's in their about sections? What words do they use to describe their past roles? What skills do they include? Not only does this give you a really good indicator of what you should be building up to with your own profile, but it gives you an idea. You'll notice patterns of keywords start to emerge, and you can add that to your list. Similarly, you should look at job listings for the job that you want. This is going to be an even faster way to notice trends and keywords that are showing up. Make sure that those recurring keywords get into your profile. So that's keywords. So once you have your list of keywords, now it's time to apply it to building a really great profile. Now, with the profile, my two biggest pieces of advice are keep it, if you've got it, flaunt it, right? So it's important to have as complete a profile as possible. And this can go against the grain for a lot of people because, we're worried about privacy. We don't want to overshare. But remember, only you decide what's in your profile. And the whole point of LinkedIn is to showcase how impressive you are from a professional standpoint. So again, we're not posting, vacation selfies or, foodie shots here, but we're posting anything that you can think of that's true, that showcases you in an impressive way from a professional standpoint, and that's relevant for your goals. And then the second piece of advice is keep it updated. And that doesn't mean every day going in and working on your profile, but if you are not actively looking, then I would say like once a month, make sure your profile's up to date. If you're actively looking, you're going to be on LinkedIn more often than that anyway. So just make sure that any opportunities you have to further beef up or change your profile that you think about that. Here's some data for you about the profiles, and then we'll go through and talk about a lot of these sections. But this is really the point of this data is just to showcase how important it is to have a complete profile, that there's real data out there that shows that you're more likely to get noticed and get engaged with if you have more in your profile. It's really true. And then the other thing I wanted to highlight was this last bullet. 96% of hiring managers would hire a candidate who was laid off due to the pandemic. So when we go into the profile and go through the sections, we'll talk about telling your story. But being laid off is a story that many of us have now, or having a gap in work history for whatever reason, family caregiving, for example. Hiring managers get it now. So while you still need to tell your story and think about what that story is and how to make yourself come across as impressive as possible, being laid off due to the pandemic is not something that you should necessarily be worried about as you move forward trying to find your next role. All right, let's go to the, first of all, why don't we take a quick break before we go to the profile? I've been talking for a while now. If anyone has a question that they want answered, you can either put it in the chat box or I'm okay with you unmuting yourself to ask it briefly. And then we will move on and dive into the profile and go through section by section to talk about the strategies for really optimizing it. Okay, I'm going to move on. And again, if you have questions throughout, feel free to input it into the chat. And then I'll let you know when the next opportunity to unmute yourself is. All right, so let's go to the profile. 2 ways to get to your profile: by just clicking on your name in the top left of your homepage or clicking on me and clicking view profile. All right, so the profile has become a pretty crazy place. Lots of great sections, lots of functionality and additional sort of features that LinkedIn has added, especially over the past couple of years with the pandemic. I'm for the most part going to go top down. Now, the right-hand column here is largely always going to be sort of brands and things, ads and things that LinkedIn wants to engage with. This is an ad here, for example. And the people also viewed section is like, if you like this person, check out this person, right? And this is on, whenever you view a profile, you see this, whether it's yours or someone else's. These top 2 options here, though, are interesting. So there's add profile in another language. And so that's if you are considering, living and working in a place where English would not be the primary language. This could be a really good option. And LinkedIn will give you more information about that. And then edit public profile and URL. So this is for people who aren't signed into LinkedIn, but find you by Googling you. For example, what would they see when they go to your profile and they're not signed into LinkedIn? I'm going to click on this just to show you the level of control you have here. So first of all, you can edit the URL that you use to send people directly to your profile. And I recommend doing this so that it's just a little more professional. If your name is, like John Smith or something, you might have to get a little bit more creative. You can edit the visibility. So click on what you want showing up to people on the public profile. So you can have a great deal of control here. Now, I'll just share with you my personal opinion about this. My personal opinion about this is that the whole point of being on LinkedIn is for people to see this stuff, right? It's for people to see how impressive you are. So I see no reason to hide it, whether someone's signed into LinkedIn or not, but everyone has their own opinions and approach about how visible they want to be in various contexts on LinkedIn. So you make that decision for yourself. All right, back to my profile. All right, we're going to go top down. So this, the Legos here, the super colorful Legos, this is the background photo. Now, by default, LinkedIn makes this like, I think it's like a bluish green gradient now or something like that. And I've seen no data to indicate that it's super important to change this to something else. So you can keep it as the default that LinkedIn provides. It is, kind of a branding opportunity or an opportunity to show personality. So you can certainly do that. We see a lot of Golden Gate Bridge photos as background photos in the Bay Area. People who have companies or small businesses will often use it as an opportunity to, kind of promote what their small business or their, consulting, freelance, whatever does. So that's really up to you. I like the Legos. For me, I'm a marketer. Things fitting together and being colorful and building things. I don't know. It's sort of branding. It's sort of just me having personality. The profile photo though, I'm sorry. And for those who don't know, anytime you see this pencil icon, it means that this is an opportunity to edit this section. So that's how you edit things on your profile. Now, the profile photo here is a different story. You absolutely need to have a profile photo of yourself, and it needs to be a headshot. Not like, it doesn't have to be professional, right? You don't have to go out and pay someone to take photos of you, but it needs to look nice. It shouldn't be blurry. It should be a photo of your face, facing forward, looking at the camera and smiling. And that's just psychology. Studies show that we like people more when they look us in the eye and smile at us. Please, please, please don't have like full body group shots of yourself fishing or something, right? Like people need to see your face, okay? And so, a lot of people ask, well, what should I wear? Likely, as you can see in my photo, people aren't going to be seeing your clothes. But if on the off chance in the photo, someone can see what you're wearing, the general rule of thumb is dress for the job you want. So if you want to be a lawyer, probably wear a suit. If you want to be an artist, maybe wear a smock. So that's that, but absolutely you need a profile photo. And think about it this way. If you don't have a profile photo and someone goes to your profile, what's the first thing they're going to think? Why don't they have a profile photo? That's not what you want someone thinking when they come to your profile. So you really need a profile photo. This next section here is just the basic information about yourself, kind of a roll up. So we're going to go through it one by one, but here's what it looks like when you try and edit it, right? One thing I'll say, periodically you'll hear me complain about different aspects of LinkedIn. And this is a big one for me. They're just not very flexible when it comes to name structure. That I don't understand how, like, there's got to be plenty of people who need more flexibility in terms of name fields. First name, last name, and additional name. Like there has to be more flexibility than that, but that's all that LinkedIn provides. So the additional name field, I use it for my maiden name. You could use it for a middle name or a name in another language that you use, or a nickname or whatever else you want to use it for, or you can not use it at all. The name pronunciation is a cool feature that was added over the last year or so. The recording itself needs to be done on the LinkedIn mobile app, which you can download onto your smartphone, and it's really easy to use. But it's just a really nice added thing you can add to your profile, because a lot of people have trouble pronouncing a lot of people's names. People have trouble pronouncing my name all the time. Like every new person I meet asks me about it. So it's just a nice thing to provide people. You can specify pronouns if you choose to, and then your headline. So I'm going to X out of this, but this is where you just edit all this stuff here. Your headline. By default, LinkedIn makes your headline your current or most recent job title and position, but you want to change this. You want to change this because this is like your slogan. This is one of the few things that shows up in search results when you come up in search results. Your name, your photo, your headline, and I think your location and industry. That's it. So this is your chance to sell yourself. This is your chance to convince someone who's skimming through search results that you are worth stopping to go check out. It's also a really great place to put a whole bunch of keywords. So notice there's a lot of marketing related jargon in my headline because that's part of what my career goals center around. When you're looking for a job, it can be good to be explicit about that in your headline if you feel comfortable with that, depending on your current employment situation. So you could say something like, marketing leader looking for new opportunity to blah, 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 and blah, 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 right? Another good thing in this section is the open to. If you click open to finding a job, then you can tell LinkedIn what types of jobs, what types of workplace locations, your availability, and then you can choose to see who sees your open. So you can have it be only recruiters or all LinkedIn members, and all LinkedIn members adds that open to work ribbon on your profile photo. Moving on. Analytics is shown only to you about your profile, and you can click into this to see details about this stuff. So it's just interesting, especially if you're trying to increase your visibility. It's exciting to see those numbers go up over time. Resources are just different things LinkedIn wants you to get engaged with on the LinkedIn platform, ways for you to start using LinkedIn more. So certainly explore it. There's some useful stuff here. In fact, I think this is the first time I've seen creator mode. So I should check that out and see what that is, because I think it might be new. But there's a bunch of other resources that you can explore. And the about section. So this is where you tell your story. Okay. Notice it's in paragraph form. This is where you get to tell your story in your own words. It is obviously and importantly a great place for keywords. So make sure you put plenty of keywords in your about section as you tell your story. You want to make things to make sure to include here what you're looking for, what you have to contribute of value to whatever you're looking to do, you know, your company or business or partner, whatever. And a little more detail about, you know, what you've accomplished in the past at, you know, kind of at a high level. So what is your story? And then you also want to address any specifics like gaps in your work history or industry pivots going from one industry to another, et cetera. You want to tell that as part of your story in your about section. One thing that I have in my about section is my last paragraph is essentially just a list of keywords. So that's one tactic you can use to get in as many keywords as you can. I see this a lot. So throughout your profile, there are opportunities for you to attach various types of multimedia, documents, links, photos, videos, etc., to show how impressive you are versus just telling it. So you can see I've attached a couple links to this position. I've attached a link to this position. And what this does, again, it's just great to be able to show how impressive you are in addition to telling it on your profile. And the featured section is where you can pull in just a whole bunch of stuff right at the top that people can focus on. So, you know, oh, hey, you like this ebook that I made? Well, I can make that for you, right? So stuff like that. The activity section is also something that everyone sees when they come to your profile. So you want to make sure that that's one good reason to stay engaged on LinkedIn, to actually do things, to like and comment and also post, etc., so that you seem engaged. And it's a great way to showcase what you talk about, you know, and to show again show that you know what you're talking about, that you're impressive, that you're qualified. It's also a great way when you go to someone else's profile, and we'll talk about this next month in session 2. It's a great way to learn about someone. So I would never reach out to someone on LinkedIn without first going to see what their recent activity has been like. Because if there's something relevant there, I want to make sure that I mention it. The experience section is the most like a traditional resume. And a lot of the resume rules apply. Sorry, that's the dog again, if you can hear him. A lot of the resume rules apply. So you want to be thorough but concise. And one of my personal pet peeves about resumes and LinkedIn profile description, like LinkedIn background descriptions, is people will just regurgitate a job description in this section. But what you really want to put here is, what did you accomplish in that role? What was the impact you had such that that team and that company was more successful because of you? I know what a head of marketing does, and anyone hiring a head of marketing is going to know that. So they don't want to know what my daily responsibilities are. They want to know, what did I accomplish? And so that's what you should put here. And anytime you can use numbers, so much the better. But even just, more of a storytelling bent about what the impact that you had is really important. And you'll notice that I lean really heavily on bullets to detail the impact that I had and my successes. And so that's always a nice way to make things more digestible. One cool thing about LinkedIn and in general, your LinkedIn profile, is that you don't have to worry about keeping things to 1 or 2 pages like you do with a paper resume. It can be as long as possible, as long as you need. So, what I would say about your experience section is include everything relevant. Now, I don't have, like my stint as a summer camp lifeguard on here because it's no way relevant to my career goals. But, my experience does go back pretty far, right? All the way back to my first position out of college, which was in 2007. So, I suggest that you think about all the things that are relevant, and remember, you can spin things. My career has pivoted a little bit too, going from nonprofit to the tech world, but you can spin the impact you had and what you accomplished in those roles to showcase what you can bring to the roles that you're currently looking for. You get to tell that story. All right, next is education. This is pretty self-explanatory. I will say that you do not have to include years if you don't want to. So if you're concerned about ageism, which I know is a very real concern, don't include the years. Eventually they're going to know how old you are, but this certainly, it's completely up to you. And I haven't seen any indication that it's good or bad one way or the other. Licenses and certifications is a really great section. So because let's say you are pivoting, or you have a gap in, you feel like you have a gap in skills, you're a little underqualified. Well, this is a great way to fill that gap and then to showcase how qualified you are on your LinkedIn profile. And there's a number of ways that you can find to get certifications and licenses. Some of them are even free. And one way, we'll go through this a little bit more in session 3, but one way is LinkedIn Learning, which has a ton of great resources. And once you take a course or a certification, you can actually add it to your LinkedIn profile, as you see I did here. LinkedIn Learning, you get there through work. See. It is a paid service through LinkedIn. However, you can actually, I think a lot of the libraries give you free access to lynda.com through your online portal library access. And so you may want to check into that, because that's a really great perk of being a library member. For volunteering, so this is a personal kind of odyssey of mine, is volunteering. Volunteering is another great way to add bulk and oomph to your LinkedIn profile and your resume, especially if you volunteer in roles that are similar to what you're trying to do. Nonprofits are way less picky about who they have doing stuff for them if they don't have to pay them. So it's a great way to get your foot in the door, to learn and level up your skills, and to start networking in the field before you actually get a paying job. Nonprofits will also be really proactive about helping you find a full-time role if they can't hire you on themselves. And I actually have read multiple surveys over the past 10 years that show that HR executives and hiring managers and recruiters consider skilled volunteering experience to be just as legitimate as paid work experience. Another great reason to have volunteering on your profile is companies really care about this stuff. They're looking for employees at this point that are going to be productive and engaged. And a big indicator of that is people who already are engaged with stuff and who show dedication and commitment to causes and to their community. Companies are pouring millions and millions of dollars into corporate social responsibility initiatives and employee engagement and volunteering programs. And so an employee that is already predisposed to be involved with that is that can be, you know, all else being equal, that can be what sets you apart. All right, moving on, skills. So skills is a list of what the skills that you have. This is a place where you want to make sure you include a lot of not just the hard skills, but the soft skills that make you more qualified. And don't forget about the soft skills, because again, they can set you apart, all else being equal. Take a look at what people in the job you have are listing on their profiles. And if it's true, make sure that you have it on your profile. If it's not true, take a course. And this is also another great place for keywords, because a lot of keywords are also skills. Now, I think you're allowed to have like 50 skills or something on LinkedIn. And what's cool about the way that you can manage this is you can actually reorder them. So if right now I'm emphasizing leadership, even though it's not the one that has the most endorsements. So these numbers next to each skill are endorsements. That means people have said, yup, thumbs up, Sherry's good at that. And so, and you can ask people for endorsements in your network. That's totally fine. And LinkedIn will also prompt people to give you endorsements. But it's definitely kind of a social proof and credibility thing to have lots of skills with lots of endorsements. You can also take a skill quiz, and this is like a relatively new thing, the last year or so LinkedIn put out. You know, and it's a good way, again, to kind of add credibility that, yep, I'm really good at this, especially if it's a super critical skill for the job that you want. But be careful, because they're hard. You can see here, I took 2 and failed both. So you really need to be really good at the things that you're taking the skill quizzes for. And then if you score in the top 30%, you earn a skill badge, which is a great thing to have, I guess. All right, so that's skills and endorsements. Next, we come to recommendations. So recommendation, whereas, you know, in skill endorsements are just like a thumbs up, recommendations are kind of way more valuable from a social capital and social proof perspective. These are people talking in their own words about how great you are and why you're so great. And you definitely need them on your profile. And you get them from you know, former employers and employees and partners and clients and anyone else you worked with in any capacity that has something nice to say about you. I suggest trying to get at least 3, and relatively recent ones if possible. And so let's go through what that process is. So you would click on plus and ask for a recommendation, and then you would type in who you want to ask. So I always use Robin as an example. She's my sister. We've actually never worked together, but and then you detail how you worked with that person. And then what was my position at the time? And then you personalize the message. And you absolutely, anytime you reach out to anyone on LinkedIn, including requesting to connect with them, you always personalize the message. Because what if it's been a while since I worked with Robin? You know, what if she wasn't my sister and she was a person I worked with 2 or 3 years ago? I need to remind her who I am and how we worked together before I ask her for something, right? So I would, send Robin a message saying, Robs, it's been so long since we worked together at Raise Me. I'm reaching out because I'm looking for a new job, and I'm hoping you'll give me a recommendation, in particular focused on this aspect of how we work together and the fact that I was really good at teamwork and attention to detail and writing. So if you could write that up, I'd really appreciate it, and I'd be happy to do the same for you, right? Then send it off. And Robin will get a notification, and she will draft the recommendation, and it will be sent to me for review. if I have issues with, maybe it just wasn't quite what I was hoping for, I can send another note back to her asking her to edit it in a specific way. She can send it back to me. We can go back and forth forever. Remember, nothing gets on my profile without my approval. But if I do get to a point where I like the recommendation, then I can approve it and post it up. And then I also have the capability to take it down at some point. So let's say, in 10 years, Robin gets indicted for tax fraud and I don't want her recommendation on my profile. Well, then I can take that recommendation down. So that's recommendations. Publications. So this definitely falls under the, if you've got it, flaunt it, right? And I should probably refresh this because there are other blogs and stuff I've written for, but again, anything that you've done that you can showcase or talk about that makes you more impressive, definitely do it. Projects is another one. I have to update this because I think that this project link is broken, but it's a great way to detail out what it is that you've worked on that's relevant for your current goals, to showcase that. So if you go to projects, you'll see all the different ways that you can describe this. Honors and awards. Again, if you've got it, flaunt it. Languages. Notice I'm only fluent in English, but LinkedIn provides for that level of nuance and specificity. So it makes me look more impressive, right? So if you've got it, flaunt it. And then interests. Interests are a way for people to see who you're following, basically. Influencers, companies, groups, schools. Remember that discover more link from the homepage. So this is where you would find more people to follow. It's a great way to showcase that you are staying up to date with relevant people and companies in the industry. So that's why it's nice to have that on your profile. LinkedIn aggregates this for you automatically when you start following folks. Causes, again, being a well-rounded, engaged person, it's nice to have this on your profile if you want to add it. Speaking of adding things, if I scroll all the way back up to the top, notice this add a profile section button. This is where you can see all the different things you can add, right? So I can add more courses, licenses and certifications, more recommendations. I can add publications. You can bet if I held a patent, I would be adding that to my profile, right? Test scores. Again, depending on where you are in your career, you want to make sure those test scores are relevant, right? So if you're, newly out of college, maybe, your SAT scores are still relevant, or your LSAT scores or GREs. But if you've been in the workforce for a while, you probably want to stay away from those tests, but maybe your CPA exam is relevant or something. And organizations and causes, etc. So that's the profile. Let me just make sure I haven't, yeah, that's basically it. So that was a lot, but we do have some time. So I want to pause and see if anyone has questions. You can either unmute yourselves or you can post in chat. Again, remember, it doesn't have to just be about what we went over. If you have other questions to ask about using LinkedIn for job searching or career development, feel free to ask it now. And then we can answer those questions and see how much more time we have to move on to maybe getting into a little bit of the session 2 stuff. Okay. Oh, premium. Thank you. Someone asked, you recommend the premium version of LinkedIn? I usually remember to address this and I totally forgot this time. So LinkedIn has a premium version for job seekers and individuals. I'll share my opinion about this. My opinion is that the free version of LinkedIn is plenty. Because the truth of the matter is that while premium has some great features, and I'll try and highlight a few of those for you now, it doesn't replace the need to have a great profile and a strong network, right? So it's not a silver bullet. It's not going to get you from 0 to 60. You still have to do the work to build that presence and that network on LinkedIn. So that's why, my recommendation, depending on your situation, is to focus on the basics and the foundation, and then you can decide to add on premium if there are specific aspects of it that you think are particularly useful for you. So premium provides, for the most part, greater visibility into certain things like profile views. Let me show you. See the blurriness, right? So with premium, I could see basically everyone. And that can be useful. LinkedIn provides other more robust analytics. Let's take a look at some of them. Is this part of it? No, see this one also. Oh yeah, this. Oh no, that's what I just showed you. Yeah. So when I go to job listings with job searching and job applying, there's some premium features as well. So it can be helpful, especially if you're in a very, very competitive job market. It can be helpful to try out premium. And what I would say about that is you can always try it out and then, cancel it after a couple months or so if you don't feel like it's providing the benefits that you need. As you can see, I had premium at one point for some reason, and then I canceled it because I no longer feel like it's worth it for me. It's not cheap. I think it's like at least $30 a month. So it's not a cheap thing, but it's something you can try out. And to find out all the exact features, you can just Google LinkedIn Premium for job seekers, and it'll tell you all the features you get. Another great question that came in, how many years of relevant experience do you recommend? So I think that's a little bit of I need a little bit more context for that question, because it depends on what your goals are, right? So if you, depending on what you're trying to achieve, more or less experience will be needed. If you're trying to achieve a senior level position in a specific field, then you probably need more years of experience. If you're pivoting into something and you're looking to really get started and get your foot in the door in a new area, well, then you don't need as much experience. If you are talking about just how far back in your work history you should go on your LinkedIn profile, I would say, if you've been in the workforce for 10 years or more, you should include at least 10 years, because people are going to put two and two together and say, well, what happened to all the rest of your work time, right? But as I said, I include everything that's relevant all the way back, right? So at this point, I have about 15 years of work experience, and I include all of it. So if it's relevant, I would say include all of it. Any other questions? The other thing to keep in mind about LinkedIn is LinkedIn is a great way to get noticed, get your foot in the door, find opportunities, get interviews, all the stuff. Once you do get to, and we'll talk about this more in session 3, once you do get to that, kind of interview and application phase, you're still going to need a paper resume and cover letters. We are unfortunately not in a post resume and post cover letter world. I wish we were, because I hate them both. So you're still going to need those things. This does not replace that. It just gives you the opportunity to make it more likely that you'll be successful in your job search. And actually, I will say, my experience has been that when you get to that, sort of dream of a situation where you've built this reputation on LinkedIn so that people start bringing opportunities to you, oftentimes you can skip the cover letter, but you still need to have a resume to give them. So another great question came in about addressing the ageism issue and how best to present oneself. Yeah, I mean, this is really tough. I'll be honest, it's not something I've had to deal with. I've had to deal with plenty of other isms, sexism, and, well, I guess reverse ageism to a certain extent, because I have a senior level qualifications, and I'm especially, you know, when you look at me on Zoom, I don't necessarily come across that way. But I think that the ageism in terms of, you know, challenges for people who are a little older, that has been a really big issue for quite a while, especially if you are in the technology sector, you know, and as you know, kind of the corporate world evolves as well. I don't have a great answer for this. You know, one thing that I suspect is that hopefully this will start getting a little easier, because it is such a tough job market right now. I'm trying to hire on my team, and I cannot believe how difficult it is to find candidates, because everyone's looking to hire right now, or at least in the areas that I'm looking for. What I will say is that part of this is how you tell your story. So, you know, just what I would suggest is that you you focus on, you know, if you're worried about ageism, focus on how you have built a career that leverages your you know, innovation, your capability to stay on top of trends, your, you know, so kind of get on top of some of the things, some of the underlying prejudices that kind of underlie ageism, in your about section, for example, and the things that you emphasize in your work experience, emphasize how you have kind of led the way, been at the forefront, etc. That's one thing that I would suggest. Make sure that you are very clear about all of the technology skills that you have, so that people don't make false assumptions about your capabilities just because of your age. If you do, yeah, if they do, you know, end up knowing your age. So those are some of the suggestions that I have about trying to get out in front of potential ageism. I hope that was helpful. One resource that I can suggest for that is, there's a great group that operates in the Bay Area called Encore Careers. And while, you know, whether you consider yourself to be looking for an Encore career or not, I think that they probably have some really great resources for folks who have encountered ageism, and how people can work to get around it, or get through it when you come across it. So I would suggest looking into Encore Careers. Next month, we're going to dive into how to build a really strong network, right? So who should be in your network? How do you find those people? And then how do you reach out to them and engage with them so that they want to join your network? And then once you have all those people in your network, what do you do to keep to stay engaged with them, and to maintain and strengthen connections, again, so that when you do need them to show up for you, as we all will and have, that they're there for you. And LinkedIn has all sorts of great ways of doing this. There's just the basic search functionality is actually pretty great. And then there's groups, which is a really great way to actually to find good people to add to your network. So we'll dive into groups next month as well. In the meantime, use the handouts. So again, we'll send the recording to you. And then we'll send those 2 handouts that I mentioned, the profile worksheet and the checklist. And put in some real time, especially if you're, you know, building out or making lots of changes to your profile. You know, it is going to take a little time. Give yourself a few days, take a break, come back to it. Think really strategically about what your goals are, what's the story you're telling, what are your keywords, and be really thoughtful about what goes into your profile, because this is where people go to learn about you. If they're interested in any way, or they come across you on LinkedIn or on Google, they're going to go to your LinkedIn profile to learn about you. And be real, right? So you're the one that's getting hired. So don't, well, obviously don't lie, but also don't present someone that's false. That's not really you. And so that's why, you know, knowing your goals, knowing kind of how you're presenting yourself and what your story is so important, so that you can present your authentic self in your LinkedIn profile. And finally, try and have fun with it. There's a lot of, here's my dog, if you can see him. At least he's being silent now. There are so many great people to meet on LinkedIn, so many opportunities that you never would have known existed, as I mentioned at the beginning. And so I hope that throughout this process, you'll learn and discover more about yourself and also about what's out there for you, and that it'll be exciting, and that you can have some fun with it. And it will, especially as you get going, and we'll talk about this more in session 3. Once you have that strong network, it should make things more efficient and productive for you, especially if you are actively job seeking. And then come to next month's session, and we will move on and learn some more together. So that's it.